they're curious, are there any current privacy rules regarding the use of drones to identify resource problems on private property? Either of you want to take a stab at that?
I think that's a Nestle or Dirk question.
You
I don't
think
know.
okay. Dirk, you know the rules, right?
Yeah, so I I focus on the federal and state regulations, and they're really there's no rule against somebody flying a drone over your property. I mean, it's the same, it's the FAA treats a drone same as an aircraft, so it wouldn't be any different than an airplane, 1,500 feet above the ground taking a picture of your property. Um, that's the um, legal interpretation, but from an ethical standpoint and being good neighbors, it's usually good to let the neighbors know that you're, going to be taking pictures near their farm, or if you want to take pictures of the farm. One thing I will caution, because I hear this quite a bit, is can I shoot the drone down? Um, Answer is no, unless you want to spend a lot of time in jail. Like I said, the FAA, or Federal Aviation Administration, considers a drone an aircraft, so it wouldn't be any different than trying to shoot a Cessna 182 out of the sky, and so it would be considered a domestic terrorism um, thing. So yeah, from the federal standpoint, there really isn't any rule that says you can't fly over that field or ranch.
Are there some regulations on that the drone has to be in your line of sight if you're
Correct.
operating? Correct. So
Correct. Yep. So the drone, you need to have it in visual line of sight. So somebody has to have eyes on that drone at all times. So that limits the distance. So it's not like you can fly the drone and drone be 3 miles from you to spy on a neighbor or whatnot. So if you do see a drone, if they're flying legally, you're going to be able to find them, right? Because they're going to be within 1,500 feet or so. And if you can't find them, then yeah, they're probably doing something they shouldn't be doing, and they're breaking the law because there has to be visual line of sight. Yeah, thank you.
okay, thank you very much.
And there are some new federal rules, so the number of brands that we can use, it is kind of decreasing. So we cannot buy and use any drone we want anymore moving forward. So there is more control and there are more restrictions about it.
Thank you very much. So, Leslie, I have a question for you. On your emissions, did you notice a difference on the emissions based on the season? Were there more emissions in the summer when it was hot?
So we collected all our samples during the grazing season when the animals were out. So in the Midwest, it is from like late May, early June to September, October. So it is not like there is variation between warm season and cold season, but there are variations like one year it was a very, very wet summer. Then, some of the emissions, so anaerobic gases like N2, H2S, they went up. And then one year it was very dry, so forage was kind of poor. It didn't even develop completely. Then the dust emissions went up. So these were the, variations we observed.
Thank you. If there's any other questions, please enter them into the chat box. Becca, do you have any what kind of success do you think we'll have being able to manage the resources especially from those smaller AFOs? And being in Utah, we have a lot of little hobby farms. Is there a good approach for trying to help identify them, or so that we can help get that information out to them? Because we know that those little hobby farms actually can add up pretty fast.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting conversation we see across a lot of different data sets is that sometimes the smaller thing, whatever it might be, maybe in this case, operations kind of gets ignored because it's smaller. But if you see a lot of those smaller things, they can add up to be a lot. And so I think, the conversation is nice to have around, there's actually a lot of value in waste. And I think sometimes we don't think about that. And maybe they are already reusing that waste, on their property as a fertilizer or soil amendment. But when you do have a lot in one area, it can be a great conversation to think about what technologies are available to get more out of this resource, especially if we have so much in one area that it's causing maybe problems for landowners nearby. So I think it really just that's why having an idea of where they are in relation to each other is really helpful, because again, you could have the same 10 facilities, but if they're really spread apart, there's probably enough land apply between the facilities that maybe it's not a problem. But if they're all really concentrated near each other, then that can create this trade-off between how do you get maybe manure to where the fields that need it most, which can be expensive in terms of hauling, versus could we think about some sort of recovery technology or approach that could help with recovering those essential things that are in the manure and then moving it even further, or selling it as a value-added product.
Thank you very much. I am not seeing any more questions, and we are just a couple minutes past our preferred ending time. So with that, I'd like to thank our speakers for their time, and we hope to see our audience on our next call or webinar in January. And so